Joining me now as we wait to hear more about what is happening inside the courthouse, CNN's Paula Reed, and also Marcos is back with us. The fact that of what's happening inside there and that there are two co-defendants in there, one of them being a former president of the United States, one being his aide, what do you make of just the historic nature of not just Trump facing charges, but also the fact that his 40-year-old valet is also going to be at that table with him?
Well, listen, I think he's the reason, the conspiracy is the reason why Trump was indicted in the first place. If this was just a retention of documents by mistake, or if it was really just not returning them all on a timely basis, we wouldn't be here. But Donald Trump was indicted solely because, I think, he conspired with his co-defendant. He made false statements or caused false statements to be made in connection with the investigation. He concealed material documents in connection with the investigation. And that's what put this case over the top. Not to mention the fact that he showed the classified information to private citizens. What's astonishing to me is that they had dinner together last night and that they rode apparently here together.
He's one of his closest aides. He's a personal aide. He gets him Diet Cokes, he moves boxes around for him, he does things like that. He's still working for him.
Right, but in a criminal case, when you have two co-conspirators, you don't want, in the normal case, to have them seen together, to be talking to each other. The lawyers will talk to themselves and will work together, but they will keep their clients generally apart because that could lead to even more obstruction of justice. So if Nauta decides to plead guilty down the road, he could talk about everything that he talked about at dinner last night. He could talk about all his private conversations that he had with Trump, even after he was indicted.
Yeah, and of course, so questions about what that relationship looks like going forward. But Paula, we're also just learning, as we're getting more in from our colleagues who are actually inside the courthouse, Jack Smith, the special counsel, is actually in that room. We're told that he's sitting behind one of the prosecutors. But the fact that Trump, even on his way here, was railing against Jack Smith, has been calling him deranged and all of these other ugly accusations on social media, and now they're face-to-face in the same room together for the first time, and we're not able to see it, of course, because the cameras aren't allowed in the courtroom.
Of course. I mean, this is a moment, right? This is the first time the former president is coming face-to-face with the man who made him the only former president to ever face federal criminal charges. We were told not to report the fact that Jack Smith would be here. There were security concerns. I mean, there were really significant security threats for the entire special counsel team. But this is a significant moment. I have no doubt that the former president will likely post about his observations on social media, but it's significant too that he's here. I mean, this is just the initial appearance and the arraignment, but to have the special counsel, who we really haven't seen at all before his statement the other day, and we haven't heard much from at all, come to conduct this hearing, it shows just how seriously he is taking this. In his statement the other day, he made a few key points. He said for him, this is a matter of life and death. The potential mishandling of classified documents puts lives at risk, and that's why he believes this case is so significant. He also talked about the integrity, the ethics of his office, because of course, as we know, the Trump team has attacked them repeatedly. And he also said that he wants this to move quickly. And that's going to be a tension here too, because we know the former president wants to delay this, would certainly like to not go to trial before the election, but the special counsel said he wants to move this along as quickly as possible. So this is definitely going to be an interesting moment.
Yeah, on that note, Jack Smith being in the room with Trump, the defendant, who right now is under arrest for the second time in only a matter of months. They're in there together. When Jack Smith did come out and make that brief public statement following the indictment and when it was unsealed, he did say he wants a speedy trial. What are the options for that? Because obviously Trump's team could try to delay this. That could be potentially, the way that what they've said to us is that it could be in their favor, obviously.
Well, under the Speedy Trial Act, you have to go to trial very quickly, relatively in 70 days. But you can extend that, and it's the defendant's choice to extend it.
So Trump would have to come, basically his legal team would have to come out and say, we want to delay this.
Right. We waive the speedy trial. If a motion to dismiss or a motion to suppress evidence is going to take a long time to resolve, or it's going to be appealed, the judge is going to say, okay, but you've got to waive the Speedy Trial Act. And I agree. He's going to delay this and milk this as much as he can and not go to trial ever if he can.
I talked to one of his former attorneys just yesterday who was saying they could very well try to push it until after the election. And then, of course, if he is reelected, what that looks like, what the implications are for that. Todd Blanche, though, is the attorney who's in the room with Trump right now. He is the one who's taking the helm on this case after Jim Trustee and John Rowley abruptly resigned last week. For a Todd Blanche, from what we know about him, how is he approaching this, given he's only been on the Trump legal team? It seems much longer, but it's only been since April.
Exactly. And he's joined by Chris Kice, the former Florida Solicitor General, because Todd Blanche doesn't even have the proper license to appear in this court. So he needed someone to wave him in. Look, this is just the first step. I mean, these two guys, Chris and Todd, can get the former president through this arraignment. But we know, I mean, they need to find competent local counsel that has practiced in this district, that has the experience. But I'm also told by local lawyers, most of the best defense attorneys in Florida, they have their own practice, right? They have other clients, and this is a full-time job with a notoriously difficult client who we've been told there are concerns about him paying his bills, there are concerns about reputational damage. But otherwise, I mean, this is the case of a lifetime, right? Fascinating constitutional questions. But as has been the case, as you know, for the past several years, it's hard for the former president to find attorneys. So Todd and Chris can likely move this through the first couple steps. But again, this is the very, very beginning of what is going to be a long, drawn out, but truly, truly historic case.
Can we talk more about the threats, the concerns over reporting that Jack Smith would actually be appearing here today, and the concerns to not just his safety, but also everyone who was on the special counsel's team? Because we know not only is Trump attacking Jack Smith, but we saw reports earlier today that they're also looking into the names that Evan Perez reported earlier that have joined the team as he is beefing it up as this is ready to go to trial.
You're absolutely a target anytime you go up against the former president, because he uses his bully pulpit, right, to rally supporters. And there is often, if not direct, indirect calls for retaliation against people who go up against him. So in speaking to sources close to the special counsel's office, there are concerns every time we use the names of these prosecutors. But they are also involved in one of the most historic, significant cases, right? Their decisions impact really U.S. history. So we do use some of their names. We do report on them. We do show film of them. But Jack Smith has been so elusive. At one point, we asked for a new headshot of him because we only have that one photo from The Hague. He kind of looks like it's Hogwarts. We asked for a traditional government photo. That was denied. I mean, he has no real interest in leading into media exposure or drawing more attention to himself. That's why I was surprised to hear that statement.
Yeah, and on that, what we just heard from another Trump attorney, Alina Habba, who's not handling this case, I should note, but she was the attorney who came out and spoke with the media. We were listening to her comment just a few moments ago there when Jake was playing it, where she was saying that they don't love America, those who are prosecuting Trump in this case. You kind of had a visceral reaction to that. You're a Republican, a former Republican who's been in this courthouse many times, prosecuted many cases. You know, do comments like that help when there's concerns about the safety of these prosecutors, even if you disagree with them?
No, listen, in plain speak, she's a hack. I mean, that was the most outrageous thing I have ever heard someone say about a case. And you can be political about it, but to say that, and what Trump has said is outrageous. You know, there's an adage that if the law is against you, argue the facts. If the facts are against you, argue the law. If both the law and the facts are against you, you attack the prosecutor. But this is Trump putting that on steroids. And Jack Smith has been a consummate professional. The federal government talks in court. You know, I think it's appropriate when you first bring an indictment to make a brief statement about it. I did it many times as a U.S. attorney. You talk about the charges. But it was incredibly important for him to explain to the American people why classified information matters. You know, the disregard and the complete disrespect for classified information and rule of law that's set forth in this indictment is astonishing.
And I should note that CNN, we have several reporters inside the building. We are learning exclusive information, including that this hearing has started, that the former president is now, obviously, as he was booked earlier, is under arrest. He is now before Judge Goodman. That is where they're going to have this. He is going to utter those words and plead not guilty. Paula, one person we're learning, more person that is in the room, is not just Jack Smith, the special counsel, also Jay Bratt, who is the head of, who is actually who was the attorney or the Justice Department official who went down to Mar-a-Lago on June 3rd to collect those classified documents from Evan Corcoran, the Trump attorney, who went through the boxes, seemingly unknowing that Walt Nauta had moved a lot of them to Trump's storage. And then he was also there on hand the day that they executed that search warrant. He's an incredibly significant presence on the special counsel's team.
He is, and he represents continuity from the Justice Department's investigation to the time that this was handed over to special counsel Jack Smith. That's why it's significant that he continued on. There were questions about whether he could join the special counsel's office. He did. And again, he has been a consistent investigator in this case, arguably the top prosecutor before Jack Smith came in. Now, there's no love lost between Jay Bratt and the former president's legal team. They have publicly attacked him, levied accusations against him, but it is likely that he will be leading most of this case. Like it would be for a defense attorney, this is probably going to be a full-time job and occupation for him. A very experienced prosecutor, particularly in national security matters. But yeah, he's been in this case throughout the entire thing, and it's great to have that continuity because Jack Smith was just appointed back in November after former President Trump announced that he'd make another run for the White House. So I expect, even though it's significant we're seeing Jack Smith today, Jay Bratt is likely the one who's going to take the helm. And that also means he's the one who's probably going to be facing a lot more attacks from the Trump team.
Yeah, Paula, Marcos, thank you. And Anderson.